Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so you've given us these excerpts, right? From Malice, Ruin, and Valor.
That's right.
And they really pull you into this, well, it feels like a huge epic story.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot going on, conflict, really complex characters, and definite touch of the mystic.
So our mission here, our deep dive, is to kind of sift through these pieces, pull out the really key stuff.
The essentials?
Exactly. Help you get a handle on the main players, what they're struggling with, the big events unfolding, like a shortcut to understanding it all without getting totally lost.
Yeah, because these texts aren't just listing events. They show you how these characters are made, how they're tested, pushed right to their limits.
Making choices that define them.
And maybe define the fate of this whole world they're in.
Okay, let's dive in. Maybe start with Corbin. His journey seems pretty central in these excerpts.
Yeah, he's a good starting point. We see him early on, facing a bully, Rafe, just feeling scared, getting knocked down.
It feels like a classic start, but right away, there's this lesson from Gar. Seems foundational.
It really is. Gar basically tells him, look, it's not the fear itself, it's what you do about it, controlling those big emotions, anger, fear. It's presented as like survival 101 in this world.
And you see that pop up again and again for him.
Absolutely. And alongside that emotional learning, there's his connection to animals. It's striking.
Just Storm, the Wolven.
Yeah. And clearly more than just a pet. The sources mention her tearing men apart. So pretty intense.
And he gets a colt from his father. Thanon names him later. There's that little detail, too, about Storm getting kicked by the colt.
And then later just ignoring him. It hints at some kind of, understanding or hierarchy maybe.
Between his animal companions. Interesting.
It feels like it points to a deeper connection he has, maybe something innate that helps him later on.
Then we get his formal training, Halion, Rowan Field.
Right, and the text really emphasizes how good he is, especially with the sword. It says it becomes like an extension of him.
And Gar's there, too.
Watching, often, yeah. Just observing, seeing him develop.
And that development gets noticed. Halion moves up his warrior trial the long night. Why?
Because, and this is a direct quote, I think, Corbin made a difference. Halion saw him in the Darkwood and realized, okay, this kid's crossed the line. He can't be left behind.
So it's not just about skill, it's about impact, character.
Exactly. And he needs it. Because the threats just escalate massively, from Rafe the bully to the Kedoshim.
Which sound terrifying.
They do, and he faces them more than once. There's this one description, it's really vivid, where you see Gar's lesson in action, that shiver of fear. He doesn't push it down.
Yeah.
No, he channels it, turns it into white-hot rage, focuses it, uses his woven claws, and then these Jahar warriors jump in to finish the creature.
Jahar warriors. Okay, another group to track.
Skilled fighters, yeah.
Yeah.
But even that victory, it's put into perspective later, isn't it?
When he sees thousands of Kedoshim in Azeroth's throne room.
Exactly. Suddenly his one-on-one fights feel small against this huge looming dark.
And it's not just physical threats he's facing. There's this big decision point. Mcken tells him to go to Drasil.
For the spear, one of the treasure. It seems like this strategic, maybe even prophesied move.
But Corbin feels something else, right? His heart?
Yeah, his heart is telling him to find Adana because he swore an oath.
An oath versus strat.
And he thinks about this, about how his heart, his oaths, his choices, that's what makes them who they are. He remembers his parents teaching him truth and courage, wants to make them proud. It's a real internal battle.
And that choice gets even heavier later when Mcken admits he wasn't entirely straight with him.
Right. That whole plan with the ships, the straw men,
it
was just a path, Mcken says, not the whole truth about facing the armies.
How does Corbin react?
Anger, tears even. It shows how much truth and trust mean to him, and how betrayal, especially from leadership, just cuts deep.
Okay, let's contrast Corbin with Nefair, another young leader, but driven by, well, ambition seems like the word.
Definitely ambition. He hints about growing up in someone's shadow, has bad dreams. There's a strain there under the surface.
He connects with Veratt, though, sees them as more alike.
Which the source explicitly says makes Veratt feel of value. So that bond is important, even for someone aiming so high.
And Nefair's has this, grand vision.
Huge vision. The land needs an empire, united, strong, like an army of ants, he says, all working together.
Why?
To be ready for the Black Sun, Azeroth. He feels he has to make his father, the king, see this.
But his mother urges caution.
Yeah, she tells him basically, slow down, curb your enthusiasm, trust your father, and maybe ditch some of these ideas, specifically his link to the Venthalan.
The Corsairs. So his alliances are already causing friction at home.
Seems like it. And that political tension is everywhere.
Yeah.
Like when Evnus reports that Mcken and King Brennan had this long private chat, Nefair's grateful for the intel, but also coldly enraged. He's suspicious of anyone influencing his father outside his control.
And the scale of his own network.
Yeah.
Calidus lays it out, right?
Oh, yeah. Colitis, this advisor figure, reveals they control Tenebral's warbands. They're allied with Helveth, Carnúden, Isiltair.
More chillingly,
They control the Catachem, the Benathi giants, builders, guardians, the text calls them, the Vimthaloon, even Queen Rin.
wow. Nefair sees himself as a potential puppet king here.
He does, but Colitis spins it, ruling with them as vassals. It's clever framing. And interestingly, Nefair's drag, his mount, reacts to Colitis's words.
What do you make of that?
Hard to say for sure. Maybe an instinct, sensing the manipulation, or maybe something about the drag itself, tuned into power or lies.
Nefair's also getting messages from Elion in dreams.
Yeah, telling him he must find the cauldron. Another treasure, described as a weapon vital, possibly needed to beat Azeroth.
So Elion gives the what? Colitis gives the how?
Sort of. Colitis confirms it's important, but admits he doesn't fully get Elion's thinking. He just pushes Nefair to focus on getting it from the Benathi giants.
It's a lot to carry. No wonder Veratt finds him looking strained.
Exactly. Jaunt, the text says, strained by more than just weariness. This vision is costing.
And we see that impatience boil over in a council meeting, demanding answers, pushing Colitis away.
Yeah, and then Billow throws that barb about Colitis not keeping order in his own realm. It shows how shaky Nefair's power base might actually be, even with all these alliances.
But he trusts Veratt, gives him that task to help Rin.
Which leads us nicely to Veratt. Loyalty seems to be his defining trait.
Absolutely. We saw how much Nefair's trust means to him, feeling of value.
And it's active loyalty. He's in the thick of it. Shield walls, single combat, gets wounded.
Taking a spear through his shield. Ouch.
Yeah. And he's watching the politics, too. Suspicious of guys like Mandros hanging around Nefair and Aquilus.
That suspicion blows up, doesn't it? The fight with Mandros' men.
It does. Veratt kills Mandros' son. Then Mandros accuses Nefair of killing Aquilus, and Veratt feels that familiar rage flare up, protecting his king's honor.
And demonstrates it pretty brutally.
Yeah, presenting Mandros' severed head to Nefair and Fidela. It's dark. Shows how far he'll go.
But then his path splits off for a bit. He travels north.
With Queen Rin and Adana. And Rin specifically says she wants to reunite Veratt with his king. So his loyalty is known, maybe even seen as a tool by others.
But he sets his own course eventually, refuses to go back with his brother, Krellis.
And declares he's going to kill Colitis. So loyalty to Nefair, maybe, but not blind loyalty. He sees Colitis as a problem.
A corrupting influence, perhaps. And he's good at sea, apparently.
Yeah.
Practical skill.
Very practical in this world. Resilience and travel are big themes for Mcken, too, right?
Mcken, yeah. He seems caught between revenge and these complicated bonds. We see him trying to talk sense into Castell first.
Pointing out his flaws, haughtiness, self-pity, seeing enemies everywhere, trying to reason with him.
Then he's saved from prison by Orgel. Why?
Orgel wants to stop him throwing his life away, trying to get revenge on Jael. It hints at a deep history there. Maybe Orgel feeling protective.
And Mcken sees a lot of combat.
Brutal stuff. Jael's warriors, the Vimthaloon in the arena. He keeps getting wounded. Old wounds flare up. New agony from Lycos.
Ah, Lycos, the old wolf. That connection sounds full.
Very. Lycos claims him, tortures him even. It's clearly a major unresolved part of his past.
He tries to escape at one point. With Fidel.
Yeah, runs away and endures that awful journey by ship, rowing through swamps and rivers, just grinding survival.
But the real test, maybe, is that arena fight against Orgel.
It's intense. He sees what they, presumably Jael or Lycos, have done to Orgel. He knows killing him might be a mercy.
And it could free him, get him closer to his revenge.
Exactly. But he can't do it. He remembers their history together, and that bond just stops him cold, even overrides his desire for revenge in that critical moment.
Wow, that's powerful. Bonds versus vengeance. We see shifting bonds with Camelin, too, the woodsman.
Yeah, his relationship with Braith is complex. Threats, tension, knife under the chin.
But also shared history. As you say, I have survived.
A grim acknowledgement. He struggles with leadership, too, worrying about mutiny after letting Goran break ranks. And he feels betrayed by Evnis at Beglin.
Even though Evnis helped him before, in the Darkwood.
Right. It's messy. Loyalties aren't simple. They shift with circumstance.
His own loyalty changes over time, doesn't it?
It evolves. Starts as circumstance after Dunkerque fell. Then it's friendship, Merak, Halion, Dath, Corbin. But finally, he stays for Adana.
Why?
He sees her change. From this spoilt princess to someone willing to stay with her people, even if it meant sacrificing her own escape. Will all stay or all go? That seems to win him over completely.
And he mentors Dad.
Yeah, teaches him the bow, fights beside him, praises his shot aiming for the horse, but still.
He's resourceful, too, breaking out of Dunkerque through a wall.
With Lorcan and Vaughn. But his travels are shadowed by mistrust, especially for Roizen, Lorcan's mother.
The bitch mother?
Yeah, he blames her for his own mother's death, his family's exile, deep-seated hatred there. He travels with Vaughn, who's got his own complicated feelings about his father, Evnis.
And Camelin keeps proving his skill. Archery against Rin's men.
Using the terrain, circling enemies, helping in the escape after the Darkwood battle, protecting Lorcan on the beat.
And facing Braith again, how does that end?
He runs, throws his sword, uses his bow as a diversion. Pure survival instinct.
Okay, stepping back from the main guys, there's other key stuff these sources highlight. Adana's growth, for instance.
Definitely. She's not just surviving, she's leading. Defending Cywin, taking charge, then actively going north with Raid and Veratt to find Corbin. She's becoming a force.
And Gar's influence on Corbin is huge.
That early wisdom, the training, the protection, and Corbin seeing Gar's worth too, encouraging him in the Court of Swords. Mutual respect there.
Queen Rin, clearly a major player. Waging war, making alliances.
Interrogating Rafe about Evnus. And that order to break Corbin alive, everyone else dead, shows her focus and ruthlessness.
Then there's Evnus, pure treachery.
Pretty much seems that. Standing at his mother's cairn, wishing for triumph, planning to drug the king, starting the attack on Dunkerque, killing people himself. He's actively betraying his side, but maybe not securely, as his own hold isn't safe after.
And the treasures are central to everything.
Absolutely crucial. Dagda's axe gets claimed by Romar, but then taken by Kalidas for Nefair, the cauldron Nefair needs. The spear and Drasil. They're driving the plot.
And Mcken says they all need to be gathered to be destroyed.
Which adds another layer. Powerful, yes, but maybe also dangerous, linked to the very darkness they're fighting.
We also get glimpses of different groups. The Benothi.
Giants. Builders, Guardian. Then the Wolven, like Storm, fighting alongside humans. The Kadoshim, terrifying, but Kalidas can discipline them, which is creepy.
And the Vinthalun.
Corsairs, allied with Nefair Kalidas. Their ships burning at Uthandan suggest maybe that alliance hit a snag or faced a major defeat.
Places matter, too. Dunkerque's fall, Murius and the Kadoshim, the Darkwood, Drasil, they're all significant settings.
Stages for key moments, exactly. And there are all these other characters weaving through the story, Rafe becoming a warrior, Cywin, Da, Farrell, Marok, Helfach, and Kalidas, the spider at the center of Nefair's web.
So pulling it all together, what are the big takeaways from these sources?
Well, you see these deeply intertwined journeys, characters changing, facing internal struggles, fear, loyalty, revenge, alongside massive external conflicts.
Leadership is constantly being tested and forged. Adana, Nefair, Corbin.
And deception versus trust is huge. It shapes everything, breaks alliances, fuels conflict.
It's a dangerous world, filled with different factions, powerful beings like Azeroth, Abenalim, Kalidas pulling strings.
It's a world where sticking to your personal oath, like Corbin does, can directly challenge what seems like the smart strategic move. Trust is incredibly fragile.
We've taken a pretty deep dive here, looking at these key moments for Corbin, Nefair, Veratt, Mcken, Camelin, and all the forces swirling around them.
We've seen fear confronted, loyalties tested, ambitions clash, and these powerful, sometimes hidden forces shaping events.
Thinking about all those different paths and choices. Corbin choosing his oath over Mycall's advice. Mcken facing Orgel and choosing mercy over revenge. Nefair's vision versus his mother's warning.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a world this chaotic, this uncertain, where every choice feels massive, what's the most important thing to actually hold on to?
Is it your own truth? The promises you've made deep down? Or is it the path that others maybe wisely, maybe not believe is laid out for you, maybe for the greater good or their own gain?
Something to definitely think about as you navigate your own complex information landscape.